we're going to talk about lifecycle emails today. This is the easy button of retention. And the reason I say that is because there are so many opportunities to be in touch with your existing customers. And the number one way to reach them is through email. The biggest problem with retention is that we have an assumption that our customers are all happily using our platform. If they're paying for us, then they're probably still using our platform, right? So retention-wise for emails, the reason we're talking about emails today is because, like I said, you might have customers that you think are actively using your app. They're paying you every month, or maybe they paid for an annual plan, and so who knows? But it doesn't matter because we're getting their money. Well, it does matter because eventually they're going to realize either they're not using the platform, or they're not getting the most value, or even if they are using the platform, there are competitors in your industry. And in order to keep the relationship and to keep your customers from churning and going somewhere else, you need to build a relationship with them. And the best way to do that is to talk to them. And the best way we can talk to our customers right now is through email. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is the life cycle email of a retention strategy. So you are in the right place if you send emails to your existing list for your brand, to your customers, to your email subscribers. If you feel overwhelmed by the idea of using your data to inform your emails, if that sounds like a lot, then stick around. And if you aren't sure what kind of emails to even send, what goes in your emails, what do you write, what goes in the subject lines, and then the last one that I hear a lot is people don't want to over email your list or your customers. You don't want to send too many communications, because I've actually talked to founders who are afraid of sending an email because it's going to remind a customer that they might want to cancel. And to me, that's a deeper problem, and that's a deeper relationship problem. The key to retention starts at onboarding, and we'll talk about that in just a second. This is a little bit about me. If you don't already know me, hi, I'm Val. I am an email marketing conversion copywriter and strategist. And I write email onboarding teardowns. You might have seen them on my blog, valgeisler.com. I do teardowns of existing onboarding and retention strategies, and let people know what's working and what's not working. I'm pretty obsessed with churn reduction and long-term retention. And I am pretty fluent in sarcasm. It comes and goes, and so you might hear some of that through sarcasm and dad jokes. I feel like I'm pretty good at the dad jokes. So hope you guys like dad jokes. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is a little something I call the dinner party strategy. And this is a way that you can bring customers in, and the early days of retention starts at onboarding, and you can use this dinner party strategy in your onboarding. You can use it later on in your long-term retention sequences. But the idea here, and the dinner party strategy can be stretched out over a long period of time too. You'll understand what that means once we go through it here. Looks like Jonathan has a question. Do you use or develop algorithms for determining what to send who and when? A bit, not necessarily algorithms, Jonathan. I don't personally, I don't have that kind of technical knowledge, but from a marketing and customer experience standpoint, definitely using your data to determine who to send what to and when, that comes into play for sure. So things like tagging, and tagging comes from anything from pages they've hit on your website to actions they've taken with your current communications and with your app. Those kinds of things are what I use to determine what goes to whom. We'll talk about that in just a little bit here. So these are some sample onboarding emails. So this is early days of retention onboarding. So we have, these are actually 4 different apps that are using onboarding emails, and these are all through the trial period or that first month. In one case, Deep Dives, the third one down, does have a paid first month. So I wanted to give you a couple of different examples here. But you can see, and Calendly's, this is actually 2 different registrations if you look at the dates. So really it's only 3 emails. So over the course of a free trial or that first month, there are very few emails going out. And I see this again and again and again. A welcome, maybe a webinar or something going on, a do you need help, some kind of check-in, and then your trial's over. That's it. And you never speak to your customers ever again or anything else in between there. The dinner party strategy is going to solve that for you. That is a problem in onboarding, and it's not building a relationship. When Harvest sends me 4 emails over the course of 30 days. So that's what happened. This is a 30-day free trial. The last email I got from them was the one that said my trial was going to be expiring in 15 days. That's so far off. They've lost me to any number of the other time tracking apps that are out there, right? So unless you work in an industry where there is absolutely no other competition, retention is worth paying attention to early on. So party planning, the dinner party strategy, there are kind of 6 elements to planning a party. The welcome, the way you greet people, your appetizers, your main course, your side dishes, your dessert, and your invite back. Hopefully all of these things are happening when you have a dinner party. If you've ever had someone over to a meal at your house or hosted a dinner party, these things might feel familiar to you. I do really love metaphors in order to get points across and to help it stick. So hopefully you'll come along with me on this journey of the dinner party strategy. So in relationship to email, the welcome, that greeting that somebody gets when they first come to your house for your dinner party, is the welcome email in your onboarding sequence. And this is Drift's welcome email. And you can see everything here from the subject line, just saying, hey. I can tell you right now that the most overused subject line in a welcome email is welcome to X app, or, so if this was Drift, if it just said welcome to Drift, those emails just pile up in people's inboxes and they get overlooked. But when this is Dave from Drift as the sender, just say hey, just saying hey, it sounds very familiar, like a friend, right? You can see the email is very not plain text, not text only, but text based. So there's a difference between text only and text based. This has an image that links to a video embedded inside of the email. So there are images involved, but this is about building relationships. And so we want to stay as familiar and personal as possible, and text-based emails allow us to do that. I always think a good rule of thumb is like 60% text and 40% images when you're creating relationship-based emails. And then transactional emails, things having to do with the product or your invoices, things like that, can be kind of the flip side of that. So 60% images and 40% text. Kind of just a rough rule of thumb to follow. You don't have to be exact with it, but you can see here the majority of this is text. It's a really warm welcome. Dave's saying, hey, you're here at Drift. This is what you can expect from us. And here's a little video so you can get to know us better. Once I get to know a person, I am way less likely to churn out from that software as long as I'm actually using it, which is another battle we'll fight in just a little bit. But right now, we're not really worried about, they're at the height of their interest in the software. We don't need to push the software down their throat at this point. We need to say hi and build a relationship on a personal level in order to achieve long-term retention. The next piece is, this is what the appetizers section of the dinner party strategy. This is delivering value. So again, this is the early days of their interest. This is maybe a day 1, so the day after they signed up. You're giving them value and teaching them about the product through that value delivery. So this email is all about, the reason I signed up for this software or this proposal software is to make the proposal process a lot easier. And so they've recognized that setting up a template is going to make my life easier. It's one of the reasons people come to proposal softwares in the first place. And so they're addressing that pain point and delivering the value on it. So they're getting me to use their app, but they're also addressing the pain point through value. The next step of this onboarding sequence is to talk about the product now. So everybody always asks at this point, what's the cadence, right? How many days apart are these emails? And the Fibonacci sequence is a really great way to think about your cadence, especially if you're testing something out for the first time. And that's where the numbers sequentially grow on each other. So it's 1, 1, 2. So like 1 and 1 together make 2. And then 3 is the next number because 2 and 1 make 3. And then 5 because 3 and 2 make 5. So that's the Fibonacci sequence. And it's in a lot of patterns in various places. You can Google it if you want the full string without doing the math. But that's a great kind of foundation, and then you can tweak based on your audience. But this third, see, it's an algorithm. There you go, Jonathan. So there's the win in your algorithm. So product is the third email we're sending out. Now we're focusing on the product. This isn't a value-based email. This is really, here's the product, here's what the core of it, what it can do for you. And please, log into your account and see what's going on. Now, it's up to you if you want to send a particular email based on action. So I like to, on these product-focused emails, if they're already taking that action in the app, you don't necessarily need to focus on that. So if there's another feature that you want to make sure that they see, then using data that you get from your product and send into your ESP or through another service, when you collect data from the product of what they're taking action with and what they're not, then you know what emails to send out to them. In the retention course that is going live on Monday with CXL, I go way in depth on the data that you collect, what you're collecting, when you're collecting it, and what you do with all of that data. We'll talk about it a little bit here in just a minute, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned that to you. So we're focusing on the product now, 3 emails in. And this is creating that really great onboarding experience. They're building a relationship with you. They're building trust with you. Now you deliver some bonuses. So bonuses in this particular case is a free month. So they're not even actually saying, here's an extra free month for you, or here's a discount code for your first month. If you don't know that price is the reason why your customers aren't purchasing yet, don't make it one. So bonuses can look like a lot of different things. And in this case, it's saying, hey, if you want to share this product with other people, you can get a free month. So paid referrals offer free months. And here's our affiliate program, our referral program. So it feels like a bonus to the customer. It's also a really great bonus to you. So this is not an algorithm, but a bit of a formula for your onboarding sequence and for your retention sequence throughout your customer's journey. And I realize the text on here is hard to see. We will send out the slides for sure. So I don't think I can zoom in without like totally screwing everything up. So I'm not going to try. But the idea here is that we're moving people from the sign up for the account, so that initial sign up and interest, through an onboarding journey. And now then you're moving into product nudges and paid subscriber journey. And that paid subscriber journey includes reviews and net promoter scores and continual conversations with them, wooing the passive, the inactive accounts, the people who aren't really making use of the app, and winning over people who seem to be heading towards churn. Again, I go really in depth in the course that goes live on Monday on how to identify who those people are. But for now, just know that you definitely have customers that fall into different segments, some who are about to churn, some who are more passively using the app and maybe going to stick around for a while, but not forever. And then you have your core customers, your high value. But you need to do retention with all of those. And then you even have reactivation. You have customers who have churned or who had a trial and never converted. And there's a whole reactivation journey you can go through with them. So this one page that you're seeing here is dozens and dozens of emails and each one of them is its own individual life cycle, right? So if you have a freemium model, it goes one level more because you have a certain sequence for everyone on your freemium plans, because ultimately those freemium plans upgrade into a paid plan. That's our goal, is revenue, right? So we gain more revenue through retention efforts, and there's a retention effort at each one of these phases of the journey. And this chart actually is from my friend Claire Swellentrop, and she runs a wonderful mastermind, I guess it is. It's a free group called Forget the Funnel, with great webinars, and you can check them out. If you're a marketer listening to this, it's an awesome resource. So we'll see this chart again. I'll reference back to it, but again, you'll have the slides to be able to zoom in on each one of these. Let me see if I can click back into, there we go. Did I skip one? No, okay. So using your data, places you can use the data you're collecting. We talked about, using your data that you pull out of the app and bring into your email service provider, or if you're using Intercom or some other messaging service, you can take all that data that you're pulling, how often they're interacting with the product, what they're doing. And then even from a qualitative standpoint, when you're running customer interviews and doing surveys and NPS, all of those pieces of data can be combined to be used in emails, in your lifecycle emails. So one of the places you can use your data is in subject lines. And there's a little something, I have a question for you in case, we're like 20 minutes in, so is everybody still here and with me and awake? And so a question for you here is, what do you see that is similar in all of these subject lines? What is the thread that ties all these subject lines together? Drop it in the chat. Yeah. Amina asking a question. Austin, yeah, they're all questions. Gil, you got it. So every single one of these subject lines are questions. Questions are enticing to the reader. Even if they feel like they know the answer, they want to open the email to prove that they know the answer. Look through your own inbox when you get a chance, and yeah, they're definitely personalized. That's a great thing to notice there, Dave, that they inside of the body of the email itself. So you can see in that preview text, they're all personalized with my name. So yes, they're all questions, they're personal, and they're based on the journey that I'm going on as a customer. So they're pulling in data, they are taking information from interviews and more qualitative efforts like open-ended questions, NPS surveys, things like that, and putting them into the subject lines. So Chris Brogan knows that people come to him because they're looking for better ways to do things. And so are you looking for a better way to run webinars is a very enticing subject line. Even if I'm not, I am looking for better ways to do things in general. Even if I don't need to learn how to better run a webinar right now, I'm still interested enough that I might open that email and find out something. And Chris is an example of a blogger, but even Freckle here asking questions of their customers, understanding the pain points that their customers are feeling and how their app addresses those pain points is a very enticing subject line, because all of these lifecycle emails do you no good at all if they aren't opened. So you want to spend time on your subject lines and pull in all the data you have in order to write really compelling subject lines. You can use the data for when you send your emails. This is a screenshot that I actually just took the other day. I Googled when to send emails for the greatest impact, and there are 211 million results. And you can see there are, so co-schedule here at the top that says 10 a.m. Okay, but 10 a.m. when? What time zone? Best time to send email backed by 10 data-driven studies, 10 different studies. Best time to send emails, here's what studies show. So like there are all these multiple studies, all these different opinions. One of my favorite email marketers said that his next conference keynote, he's going to walk on stage and say, test it, and it depends, and then just drop the microphone, because that is very true with email. You have to test it, and it depends. It depends on your audience, it depends on your product, and then you need to test it. Maybe you have a product that supports people in their home life, and so a Sunday morning email is a great time to send an email. Or like an evening email, maybe it's a 7 p.m. is when all of your life cycle emails go out. Maybe you have a more business focused product, and so you need to, and you can look at your emails of your subscribers and your users and see they're all using work email addresses. So let's send during the week and during the business hours. And depending on the program you're using, the software you're using, you can send during their business hours, their 9 to 5, based on time zone. So you can look at that. It looks like you have a couple questions popping in here, so I'm going to address those before I move forward at all. What do you do when there are dozens of potential pain points? Yeah, narrow them down, Jonathan. So there's going to be like a top 3, right? So there are, in every business, there are dozens of potential pain points. And this is actually something I see happening a lot, where through onboarding and throughout retention, we're just pushing features, because we built amazing features. And this, like, I worked so hard on this thing, I needed to tell you about it. And your customer might not care about that feature at all. And they definitely don't care about that feature if you push it from a feature standpoint. If you push it from a benefit standpoint and how it's going to benefit them, that's where you get results from your customers and get them in action and keep them long term, because you're relating to their problems. You aren't going to be able to cover every single feature and every single pain point, but find those top 3 and address those. Yeah. Jonathan, you said you're in real estate, and 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. is when moms and dads have a moment to read in peace. 100%. I have 2 small children, and I feel that. There's a app called The Skim, and they've identified it's morning news. That's the intention behind The Skim. They send an email every single morning at 6 a.m. In your time zone, because they know that's when people are waking up. They want to skim the news really quick. That's why it's called The Skim, and move on with their day. So that's all of that data about not only what they created their app for. If you don't want your news until 4 p.m., then The Skim is not for you. So that's what they created it for. And then they're also pulling in data of when people are saying, I need this and I need to read it. Okay, so what do you send? This is one of my favorite GIFs out there, because it's like, well, what do you even send that they aren't just going to hit delete on? Well, go back to where they are in their life cycle journey. If you are through the onboarding itself, the touching on those top three pain points, delivering tons of value, sharing bonuses with them, connecting with them on a personal level, writing all those emails from a person, making sure that they're storytelling, and we're really connecting as people, because it's really hard to turn away from people. It's super easy to turn away from a product. So just consider that in your onboarding and retention, that you want to have that personal connection. But what do you send then once that's all done? Well, it depends on where they are. Are they already a paid subscriber? If so, then how can you send them information that benefits them? Do you have an affiliate program? Do you have a referral program of some kind? Do you have ongoing training webinars that you can tell them about? Do you have a Facebook group full of community for them to join? All of those things are interesting to them. Your paid subscribers might want to hear about your upcoming features if you talk about, hey, we did this team gathering and got everyone together and we worked really hard on this particular feature and it's coming next month for you. Using those stories about how your team all got together and you worked for a week on one particular feature, those kinds of stories are really relatable for your paid subscribers, but they wouldn't make any sense in the onboarding journey because they're still just getting to know the product. And so you want to consider where they are in order to avoid them hitting the delete button on something that's not applicable to them. Let's see. So Einstein said, everything in life should be as simple as possible, but not simpler. And that is true for email and for retention. It's as simple as developing a relationship, but that is a very hard thing to do. So you want to do it just like you do any other relationship in your life, any other successful relationship in your life, where you're giving value to them and they're getting value from you. You're in relationship with people so that it's symbiotic, hopefully, and that everyone is benefiting in one way or another, and that there's a bit of a mutual admiration, right? So showing them how much you appreciate them, and then they in turn show you how much they appreciate you. Yeah, where they are is a broad issue, Jonathan, for sure. There are potential dimensions to that. Yeah, so where they are, I mean, so hold on one second. Let me go back. Oh, why won't it let me go back now? There we go. Oh, it looks like I skipped a couple of slides. Sorry, guys. So where they are in the journey, right? So in this particular chart, they're in these more bold pieces of text where it says like onboarding journey, product nudges, paid subscriber journey, NPS journey, ongoing nurture. Those are chunks of life cycles. And so that what life cycle they're in is, I guess what I mean, not where they are, but where they are in the overall life cycle, and then which individual life cycle they happen to be in. That's what I mean. Is that more clear? Hopefully it is. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I guess if you can ask your question in a different way, that might help me be able to explain it. Okay, yeah, I will. So yeah, this is not theory. These are things that I do every single day with my clients, and they are principles that you can use in your business. And it's not just for SaaS, it's for e-commerce, especially if you have a subscription-based product, like a box service or any kind of subscription model that more and more e-commerce stores are operating on. You can use these principles too. Just taking my slides a second. Okay, so there's one thing I want to make sure that you walk away from today, or walk away with today, and that's your customers are constantly moving through different life cycles. Each individual life cycle is its own journey, and then the overall life cycle is a journey as well. So they all operate individually, but then they relate to one another. Just like the features inside of your product, each feature operates individually, but it relates to other features in the product, so do your life cycle emails. And the work is never done. Your customers are constantly going through those life cycles, teaching you things, you're collecting data and feedback, and you're going back and iterating. The most important thing is that you're building relationships and connecting with your customers. Because like I said, it's really easy to turn out of a product. It's a lot harder to turn away from a person. And when they know you and they know your team and they trust you, even when things go bad, that's how you keep customers through the good times and the bad times, is the relationship. And we already did this one. Okay, so I've made it to Q&A. I know I ran through that really quickly, and it sounds like there maybe are some more questions. And it looks like there is. Okay, so Jonathan, you asked, there's a line between data that determines what content may be relevant to a user and what message is used to best communicate with them where they are in the process of a relationship or a decision. Can you talk to how you deal with this in order to successfully move users through a relationship and a conversion funnel? Yeah, for sure. So what content is relevant to a user? And so the question is, what content is relevant and what message is used to communicate with them where they are? That is going to really depend on the particular user and the data. Same content can be used, but message can be different. Hold on, I'm just reading through your question. I really suck at like reading and thinking through things and talking about them at the same time. So give me 1 second to just process this and make sure I understand what you're saying. Yeah, so fear versus anticipation requires different messaging, but could be the same content. Yeah, absolutely. I think it all comes down to how you communicate and also knowing that one person's fear might be another person's anticipation. And so acknowledging that you are going to miss the mark for some people. But the more data you have on them, the more information you have, the better you can address that. So for example, I was actually working with a client this morning on a very similar problem to what you've mentioned here, Jonathan. We have the exact same content that we're using and testing it out in 2 different ways. So we have a onboarding lifecycle series. And this particular software has 2 kinds of users. One is pretty tech savvy and doesn't need a lot of hand holding. And the other is pretty scared of technology and doesn't use it a lot. And so there's fear there. So this is fear versus anticipation, right? We are using mostly the same emails, just at a different cadence. So the people who need a lot of handholding are getting a bunch of emails, and even the subject line is changing. So it's like tip 1 of 6, or whatever that is, and we're letting them know, we're giving them tons of information about what to expect, and piling on emails early on to help them feel really confident in those early days where they're signing in and looking at a piece of technology and their eyes are glazing over. So with that particular group, we're giving them more information early on and framing it in a way that's like, okay, they're here to help me and hold my hand. With the other group who's more tech savvy, we're taking that same information, maybe pulling some bits and pieces out that are more on the basic side, but then changing subject lines and changing cadence so that they feel respected in their knowledge, but they still understand that we have a relationship to build and we are here for them. The way that we're gathering that data is through the in-app onboarding. They're kind of choosing their own adventure, as it were, of which category do they fall in as a business owner. So we're trying that out. So your question is, would you want to send the handholders a chat rather than a more frequent email cadence? Sometimes, if chat is a service that you offer, yeah. And so that's another piece, is that it depends on the size of your team and the services that you offer. This particular team doesn't have chat support; they just do email support. So with those people, we want to be more proactive than chat, because it's also a group of customers who don't know what they don't know. And so walking them through, these are the main steps that you need to know to be successful on this app. And here we're going to take you through 1 step each day, and like you can do it kind of thing. So that's the intention there. And that is what long-term creates these power customers who are never going anywhere, because we've not only made them successful on the platform, but we've made them feel successful with software in general, which is something that's been, you know, a barrier for them in the past. So we're solving a deeper issue, and that's something that you need to get at through customer interviews, understanding the deeper issue of your customer beyond what they did here, right? Why they signed up for your particular product. And again, in the course that launches Monday, I talk about doing customer interviews. I give you resources for that, and it's a framework called Jobs to be Done that I like to use. So that's a really great option for asking customers questions. So another couple questions in the Q&A here. Sibby asked, can you share a bit about the tools that you use, Mixpanel, Optimizely, MailChimp, etc.? Yeah, sure. So in the retention course, I talk about this in more depth, I think in lesson 6. And in that course in particular, I go over Mixpanel because it's one of the most popular that my customers use. It's one I'm most familiar with. I personally use whatever my customers are already set up with. If they want suggestions, it really depends on the business. If they're SaaS or e-commerce, if they, depending on what size they are. I don't think MailChimp is a great option for segmenting, mostly because it's really hard to pull data in and use it in MailChimp, and segmenting is like, it's just not built for that. If you're a blogger and you can have a few different lists inside MailChimp, that's fine. But if you're running a SaaS or e-commerce business, you should be using a piece of software that's designed for you. So that would be like Drip, Intercom, Klaviyo. There's lots of different options there, but I get more into tools in the course, and tools are another one of those it depends questions that it really depends on your particular business and your needs. Okay, so Peter says, for services that bill based on a percentage of profit, oh yeah, or tier price on sales. Hold on. What would you recommend for focus of the emails? Would you build out educational emails that improve wider elements of the user's business, elements that are beyond your tool? Yeah, or stick with the life cycles that turn your features? Yeah, Peter, great question. So not only for products that bill based on a percent of profit or sales made, plenty of products bill have kind of pricing plans that grow with you, right? So that's a big selling feature of, well, I only have 1,000 customers right now, and so I need a smaller plan. And then I have, in a year, I'll have 10,000 customers and I'll need a bigger plan. It only benefits you to help your customers grow their businesses. And it's another reason that they can't leave you, because you've helped them grow their business. You've given them, market information that helps them in their niche and taught them how to do things. There's a pretty popular example of this from Gumroad a couple of years ago. They had this Build Your Product Lab, I think it was what it was called. They identified that they had people signing up to their platform, but those people didn't really have a product to sell on their platform yet. So they were on a free account and not using all the features. And Gumroad's built for selling products, selling digital products. So they did this free build a product challenge for their customers. And I think it was like 30 days. They got a bunch of emails through that. They did opt into it, so it didn't go out to everybody. But they built out resources for their customers that helped them build their business. So if I signed up to Gumroad and I didn't have a product to sell, and so I was using their free plan, and then I go through this, and now I have this digital product because they walked me step by step through exactly how to do that, and how to market it to an audience. And I have all these people who want to buy this product. And now Gumroad is benefiting from that because they get residuals from every product that I sell. So figuring out what that problem is and addressing it. Sorry, I keep forgetting to check off these answers. Yes. So figuring out what those problems are and addressing them in the emails. And again, chunk it out based on where they are in the life cycle. If they're in that onboarding phase, you really want to stay focused on how the product is going to benefit their business. But again, benefits, value and benefits more than features. And then as you go through long-term retention, start to give them educational pieces, teach them how to grow their business, because ultimately that's going to impact yours. There's an exercise we go through in the course that is basically this, right? Like, how will retaining and helping your current customers grow have an impact more so than going out and trying to find new customers to bring in? And there have been studies done on it. It's so much more powerful to help your existing customers grow than to bring new customers in. Let's see. I hope that helped, Peter. Amy said, yeah, cool. Amy said, I'm from a different work background, so this may not pertain, but we have a weekly email that's designed to inform people of world news and events. Got it. And that's certainly a valid model for lots of different businesses. You can send a weekly email to your customers that is about, you know, the industry as a whole. It doesn't have to be about your product specifically. We're selling nothing, rather we're giving away information and at some point asking for donations. Okay, so this is a nonprofit. Donations being secondary, not primary. Is there a different life cycle you could point to for what our aims are? Yeah, so I think that you still, Amy, move people through onboarding. So having, you know, educating them around, yes, there's the weekly email that they signed up for, but doing a little bit of like table setting before the meal is served of this dinner party strategy. So letting them know they're going to get a little mini onboarding series that talks to them about, you know, things that will be interesting to them, gives them, maybe you take, hold on one second, I need to, it's either stop and drink or cough in your ears. So maybe you take some of your best emails, the ones you got the best responses to or the highest open rates in the past, and pull them together into a little onboarding like value add series of here's what you can expect from us. And you know, teaching them about your business as a whole, why, what you do with those donations, educate more than anything in the onboarding. And then then they move into this weekly email series. And that is your ongoing retention life cycle. When you move them into this asking for donations, that is its own life cycle where, you know, you're in that phase, and then they kind of branch off if they do or if they don't. And that's a new life cycle there. So your map might look a little bit different, but they definitely operate in individual life cycles. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to pop back over to the chat for a second. Jonathan said, I think we have to assure that the audience will not see or open or click on every email. Yeah. If we assume that, okay, sorry. If we assume that such sequencing will not occur, how do we compensate for that? I think this is where, Jonathan, people are afraid of over-emailing their audience. I hear that from so many people that they're afraid of sending too many emails. And the fact of the matter is, you're absolutely right. They won't see or click on or even open every single email you send. And so you want to make sure that, you know, one of the ways to do that is through copy. So you can, if you're sending a series and you know, again, kind of going back to that example I gave earlier of like a tips series, if on day 3 you say, yesterday I taught you blah, 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 today we're going to do this together. You know, you doing that references, oh, there was another email. Let me go search my inbox for that, or reply and tell them I missed that one. Can you resend it to me? But referencing back, and then even saying like tomorrow, you know, before you sign off, tomorrow Beth will be here to tell you about this thing, then it entices them to pay attention to their inbox and want to look for your emails. So that's definitely something that you can do to help the sequencing a bit. And then, yeah, frequency matters too. If you only, like those emails I showed you earlier on, those sequences of, 3 emails, 4 emails over the course of 30 days, if that's all you're sending, your audience completely forgets about you. And when they aren't opening your emails, it's telling the inbox to stop delivering those emails. So you want to get people opening, and that's also why I say focus on those subject lines. Someone else asked, in your opinion, how many emails should be sent during the first 7 days of a user's onboarding sequence? It depends. I think every time I speak, every time I do a webinar, every live event I do, somebody asks me this, and I feel bad saying it depends. And I know you said in your opinion, but it still depends. During the first 7 days, I would say no less than 3, no more than 7 in the first 7 days. So you don't want to send more than 1 a day, but you don't want to have less than 3. And that's probably a general guideline. But yeah, in those first 7 days, you want to stay top of mind. You want to capitalize on their keen interest in what's going on. So yeah, that's my non-answer to that. Okay, and then I have another question in here. Oh, Amy, just to clarify for anyone who was wondering, Amy said she works at an international NGO. And then another question, I think this might be the last question unless I missed something in the chat, is how do you retain a dormant customer? This is great, and I go into this more in the course. It's something I love to talk about, and I probably could have done an entire webinar on this topic alone. So I'll give you like super high level. Dormant customers, email is the place to go with them because they're not there for your in-app messages. They're not interacting with your app at all. So you want to reach out to them through email. And the trick with them is to, like Jonathan mentioned, get them to open your emails. So most of the time with dormant customers, companies will go in with some kind of like, hey, is there a problem? Hey, what's going on? And they make it all about them. They make it about the product and about features. And don't you know you're missing out on all this greatness that we built for you? And yeah, resurrecting dormant customers. Sivi, I should do that webinar for sure. Could you do a webinar on resurrecting dormant users? I don't know, Brian, maybe we should do something all about that. But yeah, everybody goes in focusing on features and the product. And I think the best way to get the attention of a dormant customer is to relate to them. Building on that relationship you built in those early onboarding days. Talk to them about their business. Find out what's going on with them. Ask them questions. Use those questions and subject lines to get them to open the emails. Ask them questions. See if you can get them on a call even. Invite them to an interview. I know a lot of business owners who are afraid of reaching out to dormant customers because they feel like they're running a risk of seeing that person cancel. So they're afraid of losing what they refer to as free MRR by letting a customer just sit there and do nothing and keep paying. And I understand that from a business perspective. But what good, other than MRR, is a customer doing you when they're just sitting there? And reaching out to them and if you reach out to them and do nothing but talk about you and your product, yeah, you're going to lose them. But if you reach out to them and talk to them about their business and how you can help solve their business problems, even if that means not using your product anymore, you might have lost that customer, but I guarantee that you have gained a referral partner, and that when they meet people, because we all have friends, and family and people we know in Facebook groups and on Twitter and in Slack teams. And when they run into somebody who needs your product and they remember that experience of you reaching out and saying, hey, let's talk about your business and what's going on and how can we help solve your problems? And, oh, I think we're actually not the right platform for you. Here's why, and here's who is. They're going to remember that, and they're going to tell their friends about their experience with you and the sacrifice you were willing to make in order to make them happy. Because ultimately, that's all we want as humans, is to be happy. And so by doing that, by kind of sacrificing them, you might gain 4 more other customers. It's a little bit of dark data that, like, there isn't a lot of information out there about that, but it feels like the right thing to do, right? Retain a dormant customer. Okay, I'm going to just make sure. Jonathan mentioned if you know something about them, you can send a personal email with something of value. Absolutely, and I think that this is why people are building in longer in-app onboarding processes beyond just like, give me your email address and you don't need a credit card and we'll just onboard you. If you ask a few more questions, or even in those early onboarding days, if you're asking them to click a link inside of an email and tag themselves, then you can send a little bit more personalized information when they do go dormant and you go into that dormant life cycle. And then one other question to be said, slightly different question. Any high-level thoughts on how to get users to get on a call? I have lots of thoughts, and I do go into this in the course materials, including a script for emails to send. What else is in there? Questions to ask on the calls. So that's all in there. But on a high level, I think, everyone's really busy. So the best way to do it is to schedule a day, maybe 2 on your calendar, block it off, and send in the email, say, I'm doing interviews on this day, and send them a link to a quick, easy calendar sign up for that day, and just make it as easy as possible on them, where they don't have to pick from a bunch of days and decide which one might work for them. And then if you can eliminate the amount of decisions that they have to make, then it's easier for them to say yes to getting on a call. The other thing is hiring an outside expert to do the interviews. And this is, I'm not trying to pitch myself in this at all. But what I'm saying is customers really appreciate having somebody who's not related to the company. So if you're a small company, and even if you can get a friend to do the interviews, or if you have the budget and can afford to hire somebody, having an outside person who has no experience with the app or relationship with it. When I do interviews, I'm not the person who built a particular feature. I didn't run QA on something for a month. I don't care if they slam a particular feature inside of a product, and they know that, and they know that they can be as open and honest with me as they want to be, because they're not hurting my feelings. It's not my product. I didn't spend 3 years of my life building it from the ground up, supporting it, etc. So I think that that's really valuable to actually get people on the phone. But beyond that, making it as easy of a yes as possible, just eliminating as many questions as you can in that email, and the templates there inside the course materials. But telling them exactly what they can expect and how long it will take, and all of those things is really important when you're making that ask. You're welcome. Okay. Anything else? Wow. You guys, we're right on time. This is pretty amazing. Yeah, Nydia, sure. Gil, you're very welcome. I love doing this stuff. Obviously, I can keep talking about it forever. You're welcome, Austin. Thanks for being here. Thank you guys for being here. If you have follow-up questions, I will have with the course that does the retention course offered through CXL Institute. It launches on Monday. I do have open office hours for anyone who enrolls for the course, so we can continue this dialogue during those 2 office hours. Would love to see you there. And I hope I see some of the names in the chat pop up in those office hours too, because it's been great talking to you today. Let me know if you have any questions that I can answer in this last few minutes. Otherwise, I will see you Monday inside the course. Well, there is a Facebook group for the course as well. So if you decide to join the course, we can have the conversation there in the Facebook group. I think you can upload files there too. So that's a great place to continue the conversation. I would love to see an interesting take on cadence. That sounds right up my alley. All right, guys, I am going to head out. It's been awesome hanging out with you. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy your rest of your day. And you can also always email me, val@valgeisler.com. That's an option if you want to share something with me or ask a follow-up question.